So we're in 2026, and the American manga space, the indie manga space, and in general, the indie comic space still has so many issues, so many problems, and still has zero growth. For the most part, I just want to kind of make a distinction between the indie comics and indie manga space. The indie manga space is in far worse territory. The indie comic space is somewhat still attached and branched, kind of like a dwindling branch from the direct comic book market, and primarily consist of a lot of American comic book veterans and so on and such. So the indie manga space is completely detached, and has no real connection to the direct comic book market. Being the American comic market. So because of that, it's in a far worse state and has far worse problems, especially when it comes to professionalism. So that's what I want to start to cover, and I guess I'm going to call this somewhat of a young wavy newscast, or just wavy cast, wavy news, something like that. But I definitely do want to start covering some of this, just the news within this space. Primarily the problems, like the major problems, major issues, the tragedies, the fallen creators. Really dissect a lot of this kind of material within this space right now, in a verbal format, in an audio format, so that way we can kind of really study it, learn from it, try and improve, especially with me and my team at the Young Wavy Comics Group. What can we do to avoid a lot of these issues? What are my solutions? What are my suggestions? What are my strategies to avoid a lot of these different plagues within this space? And I hope to eventually, branch off and really cut a lot of these individuals off, because it stems from creators, grifters, con artists, like the con artist Seji bot that we will be discussing and kind of dissecting this return video that he did with Coffee Comics. So I want to dissect the company itself on the go, and really look at what they've accomplished, what they've achieved, their business model, which is a very archaic business model, what they're doing now, and what are their plans on future endeavors and future, kind of publishing plans, if they have any, which I've already watched this video twice. And I gotta tell you, this guy, this self-proclaimed American manga pioneer, self-proclaimed. So we're gonna this is gonna be a fun one, but not just him. I'm gonna dissect a lot of these con artists within this space right now. A lot of them are leeches. I'm gonna be real with you. A lot of them are somewhat finding their way and attaching themselves to Coffee Comics and leeching off of him, and have been kind of doing this for, in Segibot's case, 2 years now, or at least that's the genesis and origin of On the Go as a publishing company. And there's others. Black Swan is one of them as well, and the list goes on and on. And I will be touching on, best believe, I will be touching on Black Swan next. And you may ask, like, Wavy, why are you, bringing up something that could be very controversial? And it needs to be, honestly. Without proper change, there's always going to be to have proper change. One is because we need it, right? There's always going to be a resistance. There's always going to be conflict. There's always going to be that, kind of divide within the space. And you have to understand that we're in an entirely different landscape when it comes to American manga. We're no longer in the, we're in the post kind of Tokyo pop era of American manga. The post Tokyo pop, the otaku fanboy era. So there has to be growth mentally. There needs to be a maturity when it comes to the artists that are within this space today, right now, because pre-Tokyo Pop, the American manga market was rooted and was within the traditional comic book market, and all it was comic books inspired by Japanese manga and Japanese anime from the early 80s, late 80s, early 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, early 2000s, right? And the list goes on, and we will go over that in a different, kind of video series, and a different series going over some of the, strengths and some of the stuff that we need to be studying from and going back to and looking at for a sense of identity, especially when it comes to the style and aesthetics and the storytelling techniques that we need to bring back, so that way your work does not come off as wannabe otaku work and just rip off Japanese work, because that's a lot of these creators that I'm going to be speaking about and referencing, and that's part of the problem. We have to get out of that otaku mindset, that post Tokyo Pop mindset. So we need to get out of that, and there needs to be drastic change, and I have to address this, whether it's controversial or not. I will be addressing it. I will be addressing it straight up, professionally, and I'm going to be as real and honest as possible. Before I get into the dissection, I do want to say, and I know this is a long intro, but I do want to say that as we speak now, Sajibot and some other Unsurgo, wannabe creator is getting very emotional on social media, very emotional, and they're going at it. They're trying to get into some sort of social media, Twitter debate, and one thing about me is I'm over that. I've transcended the social media tactics and antics. I don't argue. I don't debate. I don't give you a voice, right? You have your own platform. You can make your own video. You can do, you can type all you want within your echo chamber of your social media account, but I won't be addressing you there, and I won't be getting into a back and forth within the comment sections or reply boxes. I'm a grown man. I'm not doing that. I'm working. I have pages at my desk right now, on my desk. I'm at my desk right now. I'm working, right? So they got emotional over a comment comment I wrote on the video, which was, I don't retract. Let me go to it briefly, real quickly, actually. Let me see. What did I say? It was something simple. Let me find it. I said, and this is what I wrote, right when I watched watched it the first time. I said, honestly, just heard excuses and zero accountability. I do music as well, but I also know how to separate hobbies from career. This indie manga space is an underdeveloped market that needs 100% dedication and attention to build. You're either active or you're not. That's very straightforward. That's not, that's not even me taking shots. That's not me dissing. That's not me hating. That's very straightforward, very simple to understand. Meaning this video was unnecessary. This comeback video, you said nothing. There was no point to it. Where's the magazine? Where's the trailer to the next issue? Where's the volume? Where's the books? This video was pointless. And that's what I was saying with this brief message. You're either active or you're not. There was no point to this video, basically. So, I mean, the zero accountability, the honest, the excuses, that's all I heard. And I will be going over it within the dissection, but it's like, come on. You said nothing. You gave no updates. You gave no actual transparency about what's next. Okay. Let's get into it. Where did Sejiba go? From mana to music to mana again. Where did Sejiba go? Let's get into it.
Alright y'all, back with a new video. And Seiji is back after almost a year. And he has some explaining to do, right? What happened? Where did he go? Well, he went to music. Why did he go to music? Blah, blah, blah. All sorts of questions as to like what happened to Onsogo. So he's back and he's gonna give us the lowdown and the future of Onsogo. And all right, man. Thanks for coming back. So last year you decided to jump into your music career, and you went full force in it. You were marketing things, you were shooting music videos, you were creating merchandise like the mask, your mascot mask. You created some like cool album covers and all that. You went all in. So explain to us, like, what was the mindset or the reason behind you seeing it a necessity to jump back into music and leave Ogo for some time? Because I felt like you just, left us in the gutter. I'm sure a lot of other people as well felt like you just left people with nothing.
Which
you
he
abandoned
did.
ship.
Yeah, he did.
Captain is gone. So yeah, let's have it.
Well, I don't see it as none of that. And I'm going to just start this by saying I've always been a musician before any of this. Like, you already know. You got content.
Of course he doesn't
like, you saw everything
see it as that.
Like, I was over here doing, I'm going to just say it straight up like this, bro. I was making more than majority of you niggas out here trying to draw and trying to fake your career.
Okay.
You get what I'm saying?
Right.
I wasn't in no self-contained dungeon or none of that. Y'all already know how I am.
That's right,
I could
right?
sell water to a motherfucking well if I needed to.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But when I actually have a good product, a good product sells itself.
That's someone just rambling. He's just talking. None of that answers the question of why did he leave, and then why did he come back? Because if he was making all that money and his music career, his SoundCloud album was successful, he would still be doing that. It doesn't make sense. Then why come back? Right? So he doesn't answer the question, so I don't know. Obviously, the results, don't lie. He's not doing that music, album anymore, or whatever his music career he thought he was going to do. He course corrected, and this is a major issue with these indie creators right now, is double-mindedness. Right? They're not all in when it comes to an actual career in this. And then he's bragging about making more than independent creators that are rookies, have no actual established career. So anybody working a part-time job would be making more money than most, if not all, creators in this space by default. So that's not a real brag that he thought. I don't know what he thought, but it's not a brag. This is an unestablished marketplace. Nobody's making money here. There's no readers here.
And that's what people know Ogo for, But as far as me taking the 1 year, we'll say journey, I learned the value of products. You know what I'm saying? And I learned the value of my time that I put into creating these said products. And we have to be compensated for that, Nobody here is just working for the sake of. And if you are, you're stupid. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's stupid, because you're just going to crash out and you're a ticking time bomb. Whereas if you actually value and price your work the way you need to, you'll be compensated, fairly, what you would consider to be fair, But that was one of the many things that I learned upon my journey about, venturing back into music and stepping away from the mana. I've always been drawing. I didn't stop drawing, The pen game still stays strong. And that's for the rest of Ogo. They already knew what was up. Probably like, yourself and maybe the Red Witch. She felt slighted, but at this point I really don't give a fuck. Money was made, investments were made, and because of that, Ogo's gonna get a whole revamp, and it's all because of stepping outside of the comfort zone. Whereas I've actually been tapped out of the indie comic manga scene for years, but when I came back, nothing has changed.
Okay.
Like, nothing has changed. I just still see people parading likes and, cheering people on and not actually buying product. And then the people making these products are still like,
that's interesting.
Making ends meet.
That's very interesting, because one, in terms of a revamp, we'll see. We'll see. You haven't said anything significant to indicate that there will be a revamp. You just said investments vaguely, not going into what those investments are going into. Are you talking about the same archaic business model that you're going to continue to invest in terms of in-house garage project zines, garage products, in-house homemade stapled zines? Is that the product that you're going to continue investing in? Or those dated hard drives that are USB hard drives are going out? They've already been out. They won't be around within the next 5 years. We're past USB hard drives. So these dated archaic business models, you're behind the times. Right? So what are you investing in? And what shows me that he's behind mentally and definitely behind the times is he's expecting change within, we're building a marketplace. We're building within an unestablished marketplace, which tells us that we have to build a marketplace to even see any significant change. And you're not going to see that within a year. You have to think long term. So he has a very kind of hive mind mindset, a very TikTok brain mindset to expect to see change instantly. No, it's going to be a lot of trial and error. Young Wavy Comics, the Young Wavy Comics group itself, we're on the ground floor. Our heads are down at our desk. We're strategizing. We're working. We're laying in the groundwork, the foundations, the pillars, to then set us up 10 years down the line when the market is a lot more established, because it's not going to happen over a span of 12 months, over a span of 12 issues. That's one thing that did not change with On The Go, which was they did not improve at all. From issue to issue, you saw no improvement. It still looked like nothing but a garage project from issue 0 to issue 12. With each Young Wavy Comics issue, there are visible and drastic improvements. Each issue, from all the artists to the actual trade dress to the actual production, the product itself has changed month to month. Improvement. Month to month improvement. Steady growth. New partners. Right. So, and more to come. Full-time career, sustainable income is not instantaneous.
Whereas I did Slumpland. I only put 3 chapters of Slumpland out. The thing about it is that I really, at this point, don't care about who reads my book. And I guess that I could chalk that up to me being a musician, because it's hard to get people to listen to my music.
If you don't even care, how would you even make growth?
About it. And now I have a whole fan base,
That doesn't even make sense.
So
now, what do you mean by when you stopped caring about it, suddenly your fan base grew? How does that work?
Because I focus on why I do it, And when people see that you're thirsty for that attention, people see that, bro.
But if you don't care, how could you?
They try to pander that they're like, yeah, like I'm doing this, yeah,
Never mind.
Like, this is the dream, and it's just like, bro, the whole time you're like crashing out behind screen, and you're trying to like save face.
Because there's,
okay
I'm not gonna go over
to be, like, fucked up and, like,
all of his rambling,
because
he's just talking right now.
And actually express that, because if you just know what it is, you'll have an easier time navigating this cyberspace.
We don't hear any strategies in terms of
and that's why
how
has
will
always been as good as it has been.
Ogo navigate within this so-called cyberspace.
Sales, like, we just been chill, bro. So however other people
just
do us,
chilling,
especially if they ain't subscribed, I could give 2 shits, bro. I literally could. I literally couldn't. I couldn't give
just
more
chilling. And
they already were investing in Ogo and they have something to say. Like, what's your word value to me at that point? You know what I'm saying?
So what about the ones who were subscribers and then, the website went offline, magazines stopped dropping, because some dudes came to me, be like, yo, I'm subscribed, but I don't know what's going on. Are y'all taking a hiatus? And I'm
bad
like,
business practices.
Look, man, you could just ask Seiji directly, bro. So it seems like some people were not informed.
Bad business.
That there's
bad business practices.
That's why there was so much suspicion, man. That like, did Seiji just grift us? He used us to beef up his career.
He wouldn't admit to that,
especially when you
were
promoting the music.
Of course, it means in the actions.
Page. That's what it looked like.
It's in the results within the actions.
With my music, so it didn't even matter. None of them manga, y'all, they weren't fucking with it, so they could go to hell with that. It didn't even matter. I was actually on brand with that, and if anything, I got more eyes on Ogo from my music from that. You know what I'm saying? So I know what I was doing.
Then why
As far
aren't
as
you
the
still
people who
doing it?
subscribe,
Why aren't you still
hey, I
doing it?
canceled the
Why did
whole
you
thing, so I
stop?
wasn't taking money from
If
people
you
who
knew
would
what you were
subscribe. If
doing,
anything, I
why
guess
did
I
it
did
stop?
feel a
Why
mad
did you
feeling
stop?
and
Why
just
aren't you doing it
just
now?
ghost. You know what I'm saying? But at least I didn't take folks' money.
Yeah.
And of course,
Yeah, you
and,
pulled
and
it.
I've
Came
gotten
back.
word that
Yeah, I mean,
he has
everybody
taken
knows
people's
that,
money,
oh, how's Coffee
and
going
people
to
weren't
react?
paid.
Because said you pulled a nigga.
That being Muzi. Muzi
And
wasn't
I
paid.
mean, what y'all think? I
This
obviously
nigga
had
owes
the
him money.
caffeinated reaction. I told Sage that, hey man, this just don't make no sense. It's that nigga shit. But oh well, Now with the music journey, so what? You're gonna take a break with music now?
Again, this video was
You
pointless.
went there to make all kinds of returns in terms of financially, so you
And
can.
you saw the returns yourself.
Yeah, I
You
saw
saw
them. I saw them.
We just got to clarify to everybody that you saw the return.
Returns.
Yeah, I saw they are definitely
Returns,
much higher
returns.
than everybody who's in the manga space. Much higher.
The returns, huh?
And it was sustainably, consistently at a high level.
The returns are active readers.
Hey y'all,
That's
just
the
so that y'all
returns.
know, I
Active
show
readers.
Muzi all of this shit. Like I show him everything with this shit.
That's what's most
Yeah.
important. Is
I
active
saw
readers,
the screenshots. So I
not
saw
short term.
I saw everything.
Short term gain
So,
is
okay,
not sustainable.
You made the necessary funds. Now with the funds you've made, your plan is to invest in Ogo even more.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
And in smarter ways. You know
How?
what I'm saying? But yeah, continue.
How? Why
Now,
are they skipping
the
over
people
that?
who are like disillusioned and disappointed.
What's the
that, oh, man,
plan? What's the
I
how?
believe in Ogo,
Why is that
and
being
the plug
just
was
skipped
pulled,
over? Why is it so
but now you're
vague?
coming back with a bag of
Invest.
cash to invest. What's going to be different with Ogo now?
This is the money question.
Shit, you have to find out by investing or going on the site.
Of
I
course.
honestly don't have to explain myself.
Oh,
Ogo's
of course.
done enough
Of
for them
course.
to know that
Of course.
we can deliver what we own.
That's right.
It's more so the fact that I left. It was never Ogo has bad stories or Ogo isn't consistent.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
This
y'all
guy.
just gonna have to see. Tune in to Ogo, man.
So
After this
no
promoting.
news at all.
I went to the
And also-
website recently.
No news
I don't know.
Okay.
from the
I
actual
don't know if it was
plan
my
and strategy
computer or something, but there
for
only
the
was
700
a
viewers
display of
that
the
watched this
catalog, which
video.
was, the recent cartridge, right?
No
That's
news,
all that
no
was
strategies,
there. I
no
was
plan.
Like, wait, is it my
No
computer?
vision.
Is that the case? It was just a cartridge so far.
Yep.
Okay, so now it looks like Ogo is turning into mostly just a online product store.
A flea shop.
Where
Online
you're
flea
not-
That's
shop.
what it looks like.
That's what it looks like.
An
I don't know
online
if it's
flea
gonna
shop.
update it now.
You know what, Muzi? Honestly, bro, I'll give you more context outside of the call just so that you know, and you could have the peace of mind knowing that there's shit coming. But I'm gonna let these other folks. They just gonna have to see.
There's shit coming, guys. There's shit coming.
I can tell you directly after this call because I know what it is. But we actually have a roadmap, So
Right.
I know what I want to do for this
Okay.
whole entire year with Ogo.
Why not go over the
Okay, give the
roadmap?
people a hint of like what. Okay, the hint is the cartridge. Like so far, you released a custom golden cartridge that serves as a flash drive with a bunch of Ogo digital products in there, and that sold
Okay.
out in like what 3 days?
We'll say 4.
In 4 days.
Okay, so
It was limited run.
limited
Now,
run,
This
10
is
copies.
the important part that I think
I think so. I think
we
it was
all
like
have
10
to
copies.
come to grips with. I have always been preaching long-term strategies, but I've been able to say when I'm wrong. We don't live in a world anymore where there can be long-term gain. I mean, this recent bullcrap of Iran bombing Dubai and oil refineries in the Middle East, that's going to jack all our shit up. Just like
All
that
of that
oil
is
went up
hypothetical.
13% up there. Who knows next week what it's going to be
All of that
worldwide.
is
So that
hypothetical,
means
not
If you
relevant.
have any long-term plans, you're just as screwed as I've always been living in the jungle at this point. So I
Hypothetical.
have to let go of the idea of long-term strategies, long-term gains. There's no such thing anymore.
Absolutely not.
These
Absolutely
oligarchs
not.
are crazy.
You
These
need
retarded
long-term
companies
strategy.
will crash
You
their
need
own
long-term
systems
gain.
just to ruin your business. Because, they're going to be good. So if anything, you're going to have a sense of urgency. That
You don't
part I've been
focus
saying. But
on
now
the
I
worst
see
case
that
scenarios.
short-term returns are the new focus.
No,
Because
you don't
focusing
focus on the short.
long-term
You don't
return of
focus on the
investment,
worst case
there might
scenarios.
not
You
be
try
one. So in your
keep
case
the
now,
best case.
with Ogo,
You try to
was
go
gone
for the
for a
best
year.
case.
The cartridge came. I
You don't
labeled
just
it as a
assume that
short-term
There's
gain.
doom
But now looking at the
waiting
world, I'm
for
like,
you.
this is all the gain there
Hypothetical
is
doom.
now. Explain to us your understanding.
You confront it. You continue to navigate within the circumstance that we're in, regardless of the issues. We have to.
I see
There's
it
no
as
choice.
short-term, right? You see it as long-term somehow.
What else would you do?
Explain to us.
No, this is how I see it. You know what I'm saying? It's not even short term or long term. You just gotta, like, it's a business. Like, we all gotta run the business. You get what I'm saying? So it's just like straight up like this.
No, we don't get what you're
we can just
saying.
make it very easy.
Because you're not saying
Short-term,
anything.
long-term. If nobody likes you, if people tolerate you, and you're barely even good at what you do, then focus on the long term because you're gonna need it. Because if no one likes you in your short term, then you're gonna be a con.
Guys, they're talking about the future here.
Like,
They're rambling about the future.
you just gotta know what
And
you're winning
Seji's
for.
just stalling
Like,
because he ain't got shit to say
everyone wants to do
anyways.
this
He's just
manga
rambling
manga
about
stuff because
the
they've
future.
always wanted to
That is
do it
hypothetical.
or be like their favorite, manga artist or whatever. Some people do it for money, you know what I'm saying? But you got to do both. But the money has to be there, and I think that people are missing that. Like, you have to be paid. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not talking about like a couple dollars a page. Like, I truly believe, let's say like Bloody Hell, right? How much would you sell it for? The volume 1.
Volume 1 on its own, I think it's $14 right now on Amazon.
Yeah, it should be $25.
All right, yeah, explain that, because someone like Young Wavy would be like, yo, you're pricing the general consumer out. Why should it be $25?
Honestly, who is the general consumer?
Yeah, now that is a good question now, because it's an oversight at this point that we thought.
So,
yeah, continue.
It's like you're pricing out the general consumer. Okay, who's the general consumer?
Yeah.
If they can stand up and say and fork up some cash and buy some more product, then I'll know who they are. You know what I'm saying? But it's just people talking, man. And at least if you sell a book, you'll be able to make another one with it.
That's true.
Because, okay, let me ask you, how much does it cost to make one book of Bloody Hell?
Well, for me, I can only calculate with time,
Okay.
But
right. We'd have to dissect that.
If we look at Amazon, how much they charge to make a book that's like 200 pages, basically $8, around $8 there to make one book.
To make one book, and how much would you get back from one sale?
Because it's being sold for $14, I'm not even selling it for more than half. So I'm not making much. I'm not making much, obviously, and then of course Amazon takes its cut.
Exactly.
You're left in a tough situation.
Amazon automatically takes 40% off top.
Yeah.
Automatically off top, so you barely can make another book. You have to sell 2 books to make one. Whereas if you sold it for $25, you can make another book automatically. People aren't thinking like that, and then they're crashing out when they're broke, and then have to make GoFundMe's because now they want to keep doing art. It's just like, nah, bro. Like, you got to invest and reinvest. That's the thing, and that's what everyone in Ogo knew that. That's why people finna see. That's why they ain't seen. People from Ogo ain't burnt out. We still drawing because we know what we own. You know what I'm saying? Like,
We will see, but I'm gonna just touch on this last segment of the audio, which is basically telling all of us and telling me that they will not be changing at all in terms of their business model, at all. You know, they think that putting more money in equals more money out on the back end in terms of, but that would actually mean that you would have to grow your reader base, which I find very difficult for Onsurgo to grow the reader base if they're doing everything in-house. The production quality, like I said, is amateur level, zine level. It's not professional magazine level. It's not professional shelf ready product. It's not mass producer or mass production, mass consumer level quality, mass market quality. So it's going to be difficult for you to even grow your reader base just by the base, just outlook of the product itself. And the stories are very amateur level. All the art just within the work is amateur level. And on top of that, not only that, but you're pricing the magazine itself double, triple the actual marketplace value, right? And you're expecting people to just pick it up when everything else, depending on where you sell it, because they tried to sell it in the direct market when every other book surrounding their magazine on that shelf was either $5, $3, $4 single issues, right? So, and on top of that, vastly higher quality, and on top of that, even a trade paperback for $10, vastly higher quality, from name recognition, name recognized creators and proven creators. So they're already losing in the actual direct market, but just getting people to order your product at a mass level, you cannot sustain that by doing everything in-house, right? It's just gonna up cost. And you're gonna slowly just burn, wither yourself out. Onsurgo is not ready, or cannot, at its current operations, how they currently operate, cannot sustain tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of orders and readers, which is the goal, which should be the goal. It should be tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands to millions. That should be the end goal. That should be the current goal, is to grow your reader base to that level. So pricing your work down to a more entry level cost, a more sustainable cost, a less barrier to entry cost of a $10 magazine or a $7 magazine, or a $5 or $3 magazine. If we could, that's where the price point would be, right? Once we get expanded distribution at Young Wavy Comics and go through the traditional printing, press market, the traditional print market, and we're gonna go over Amazon, but the traditional printers, the larger the orders, the less the cost per book. So ordering in bulk and going to press in bulk is actually a lot more cheaper per copy of the book. So that way we can actually decrease the price point even more. Now, how do you sustain, a decreased price point? It's very simple. It's very easy. You grow the reader base to a sustainable point. That's all. It's just a numbers game. You need more readers. You need more readers to sustain this low price. That's it. It's not rocket science. If the goal is to get to that point, reach that point, that mainstream level point, hundreds of thousands to millions of worldwide readers, Why stunt yourself at the ground level from growing? No. Especially through Amazon. Amazon is the largest online retail book market and largest online retail market in the world. Right, the reader base on Amazon alone is vastly larger than the entire indie comic space entirely, especially the indie manga space, because it's not just comics, it's books, it's novels, it's all ebooks, it's all forms, different types of forms. And I'm going to do a continued video kind of breaking down our format and why it makes sense, but I'm going to touch on it briefly. It's the number one reason why Amazon makes more sense. And he brought up the 40%, royalty cut. That 40% covers shipping, handling. And let me remind you, worldwide shipping and handling, printing and listing, distribution, handles all of those upfront issues. All you have to do is upload your files, do your work, upload your files. That is honestly the only sustainable way you can do a monthly magazine at this small scale level, right? When you don't have any large production team, especially, just uploading the files, getting the team's, files together, just assembling them and uploading them to Amazon, their platform, to then be printed in paperback format per sale. So it's accurate sales because it's print on demand, right? You only make money when a reader buys your book, and you have to bring them back to continue and to continue to buy your book. That's your job as a comic artist. That's your job as an author, right? Is to grow that reader base. There will be no money if you have no readers to sustain a actual career. So you have to be bringing them back on a monthly level, on a month-to-month basis. And that's just publishing, right? So it takes time to build that. It's not something that just happens overnight. Sure, you can get a spike. And going back to the aspect of Onsurgo is not prepared to handle any large shipment orders of a 10,000 buyer order, 100,000 buyer order. But guess what? Amazon can handle that. Amazon can handle. Their warehouses are vastly larger. They're worldwide. We have access to multiple regions, right? Our books are being bought in Canada, Indonesia, Japan, and Brazil. So South America, and of course America, the US. So we have access to the mainstream market, and that is what the Young Wavy Comics Group is building. We're building American manga, aka mana, in the mainstream pipeline. This isn't a garage project. This isn't some amateur zine project. We're trying to go mainstream. We're trying to reach the 100,000 level reader base, the million level reader base, to actually sustain a full 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 year long career, and then some, and retirement, of course. But you can't do that at the bottom of the barrel, in this echo chamber of this indie space. It's the indie space in general is a dungeon, right? Your own website is a dungeon that you have to build up. It's your own separate market outside of the actual main marketplace. Anything outside of the main marketplace, especially the internet, being the internet on a broader scale, is a dungeon in itself, right? It's it's just an endless void of practically, no exposure, because a lot of it is bots. A lot of it you won't see. It's not the real market, is what I'm getting at. It's a virtual market. It's not the actual market. So anybody can have a website, but it's how do you bring and build that website into a sustainable marketplace, right? That can even sustain a print run of 1,000, a print run of 10,000. They can't even sustain a print run of 1,000, right? Printing on their homemade printers, and you have to, it's completely unsustainable, because one, you're also, all the printing cost, all the upfront cost. Now they want to complain about Amazon's royalty split. That 40% royalty split is nothing based on what I just told you, that they cover everything. They cover in terms of their platform, their access to an actual mainstream pipeline. 40% just covers the cost of getting your work out there. That's nothing. Amazon makes nothing off of your work. You get 60%. That 60%, whether you got 60% or 100%, you put no money down. At least me and my team, because we create our work in-house. We create our work ourselves. So we put no money down, right? $0 down, right? So depending on your business model, it may vary, right, in terms of how much money you spend to actually produce the material itself, right? So it may vary, but it still makes more sense than doing it completely yourself, because you have, not only do you have pre-production costs, you also have shipping costs, right? You have your shipping costs, you have your shipping and handling, which is very time consuming as well. So your readers aren't getting their books on a monthly basis, right? Amazon, you get your books that same very week. Through Amazon Prime, you get your books sometimes in a day, 24 hours to 48 hours to 72 hours. I haven't received any book later than 3 days. That's how vastly just established and evolved that this Amazon print on demand model is. It's vastly more sustainable. It's vastly more evolved. I think this is this is the future for independent creators, especially how we build this manga marketplace, this American manga marketplace, outside of the traditional direct market, being bookstores and being, Barnes and Nobles and retail stores, retail chains. We're still within the online, space, online market, but it's a worldwide online market through Amazon, and they're the biggest brand right now when it comes to books, and they're growing, and they're expanding. And I think if we were to push the readers to that one location, not only Young Wavy Comics can thrive, but multiple. I think we can all actually thrive by pushing readers to that same direction. And there be a renaissance of American manga magazines that are easily sustainable, right? All you have to do is upload the files. You can even sustain a weekly level if you structure it properly. That's how simple it is. Your books can be up on Amazon's platform within 72 hours of you having your files together. Within 72 hours, it can be listed and up there available for people worldwide to buy, right? Going back to this 40% argument, it's not even an argument, because all your upfront costs and all your cost of production, shipping, and handling is already 40%, well over 40% knocked off already, right? So the That 40% is nothing compared to your archaic business model you're already utilizing, right? We put 0 down, right? So that 40% is irrelevant to us. It's irrelevant because we never had it, we never spent it, we never seen it. All we see is the 60% gain. That's all we see. And all we see is the readers grow, right? The reader base grows, the revenue grows. That's how you sustain a comic book career, is by valuing the readers. You do not value your readers by squeezing them of every cent that they have and exploiting them, right? Something Marvel and DC does currently is they exploit their reader base, and they have been with all the gimmicks and such. That's exploiting their readers. And then eventually they wither away and never come back, right? So they may buy 1-2 copies of On the Go for $25. 2 issues is $50. 4 issues, that's $100 spent. And that's only the quarter. That's not even a full year. And you've already spent $100 for a magazine issue, which the purpose of a magazine is supposed to be a jumping on point to your main product line, which should be your volumes, your trade paperbacks, your hardcovers, your omnibuses. These are multiple other revenue streams. Also your art books. These are multiple other revenue streams, right? Even your digital copies, multiple other revenue streams that also subsidiate the lack of revenue from the magazine itself, because the magazine at Young Wavy Comics, Monthly Shonen Wavy, is not made to be profitable. It's made to be an anchor to bring all the readers to one location, bring them all to one location and grow that steady reader base, right? So to then see those same readers go off and venture into the expanded catalog, which is again your volumes, your hardcovers, your omnibuses. The list goes on and on and on in terms of your different reprinted material, your reprinted, however you reprint your material, your art books, and so on, right? The magazine isn't made to be some boutique book, the price of a hardcover. No, that's your entry point. That's your entry point product. So it being $25 is ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Current magazines going in the market right now, Otaku USA, Anime USA, by the same company. That's currently distributed in Barnes & Noble's newsstands at $7.99. $7.99. Vastly higher quality than Osurago. Vastly higher quality. Right? We compete with that. We're not competing with on the Go. Just to be clear, we're not competing with On the Go because they're in there. We're in an entirely different marketplace. We're on Amazon. We're actually competing with the big leagues, the big league creators. We're in the big leagues. We're competing with actual worldwide greats, right? Worldwide master artists with large fan bases and readers. So going back to this notion of who is the general consumer, the general reader, if you don't even know that, hang it up. If you don't even know who you're selling your product to, hang it up right now. And that notion is because it did not work out for them. They do not even know anymore who they're selling to. That's how poorly they performed. They don't even know. They don't even remember the mission, right? Of On the Go, Mana On the Go, or what Mana represents, right? Well, I'll tell you, I know who are our general audiences and the readers that we're trying to reach. are the readers that are buying your mainstream manga, your mainstream, buying from your mainstream publishers in not only the Japanese manga, but in the American comics field, while also being directly in the middle, building up our own marketplace, right? Our general reader, general consumer is late teens, mid 20s, watches anime, reads manga actively, goes into Barnes and Nobles, buys a volume of his favorite story he may have saw on social media, right? Or he may have just bought it on Amazon, right? That is our general audience. Primarily, the magazine is primarily geared towards males. It's a shonen magazine. So that's one thing about On The Go. It's not even in their branding of their target audience, their target demographic, their general consumer. The general consumer they're even trying to, reach. Right? It's not even in their branding. With Monthly Shonen Wavy, I tell you exactly who we're going after. Again, Wavy means worldwide artistry, visionary youth. That is our target audience as well, right? That's who we're trying to reach. That's what we're trying to do. Worldwide artists around the world, trying to inspire them, right? The last visionary youth. The visionary youth is just the last of the youth. Any youth that has vision, right? A creative vision. That's who we're also targeting with Wavy. That's what Wavy represents. That's what Wavy means, right? And then, of course, Monthly Shonen. All right, so it's a monthly level, Monthly Shonen. What else is monthly and shonen? Blue Exorcist, right? Your Gakurakurai, or however you pronounce it, right? Your Jump Square, your Ultra Jump, your monthly shonen series, your monthly young magazine, right? These are all within that category. Those titles gauge the type of reader base and your audience. It gauges how can you get an actual gauge of the reader base you're trying to build. How can you get a gauge without actually looking at the mainstream marketplace? How can you even get how can you have a concrete vision for your publisher, for your magazine, for your long-term goals without looking at the actual mainstream, right? So what do you hope to accomplish? Do you hope to just be happy with your dedicated 100 readers, or your dedicated 1,000 readers within your own little ecosystem that will maybe last 2 years? Or are you trying to go, or are you like us, right? Like Young Wavy Comics, trying to breach the mainstream market where if one reader leaves, we still have access to 5 others that come in the door. If 10 readers leave, we still have access to 100 readers, right? If 1,000 readers leave and they just drop out of comics entirely, an entire generation maybe, we still have access to the next generation, right? So our goal is not to stay stagnant at 100 books, 100 readers, 100 books sold, 100 readers, 1,000 readers, 1,000 books sold. 100 copies sold is a stepping stone to 1,000, and 1,000 is a stepping stone to 10,000, and 10,000 is a stepping stone to 100,000 readers, and 100,000 readers is a stepping stone to 1,000,000 readers. That's what we're building here. That's what we're building, right? We're trying to build this American manga market space, and it's very important that I address the creators that are plaguing this and stunting, not only plaguing but also stunting the growth by utilizing 20-year-old business models that no longer work, that are unsustainable. Unsustainable does not grow the actual market. They're not even concerned about the market. They're not pursuing the actual marketplace. They won't even utilize Amazon, which I suggest they do. I highly suggest that if on the go, if they're listening to this, if Seji is listening to this, which I know he will be listening to this, but even if he doesn't, right, it doesn't matter. This is the year of competition, so they're withering away anyways. But if he does listen to this, I highly suggest utilizing Amazon KDP and pushing, this business model, not just business model, but this actual publishing model, because it has a lot more potential than what you're doing. Your in-house zines do not work, and they will not work. And long term, it will stunt not only you, but all of your creators. All right, so right now we're in survival mode already. Right, it's already hard. I'm working a day job while also handling all the production of the actual imprint, Young Wavy Comics. Right, but the goal is not even to be our own publisher. That's another kind of just mindset that's just completely archaic, right? The idea, and this goes way back to the whole point of when my first encounter with Sejibot, right? It was when I first encountered Unsurgo, and they popped in to the Coffee Originals old Discord channel, and he was trying to recruit me. He tried to recruit me on multiple occasions, but he was recruiting multiple artists to join the publisher. And I told him, right, everyone and their mother wants to be a publisher. And to this day, I still stand by that. What I meant by that was that it's very idiotic to try and think that you can just come into a publishing market that is already deteriorating and try to spark up a whole new publisher, going up against household names that have a stranglehold and a monopoly over this market already, right? So you trying to become a publisher and then compete with the Shonen Jump or compete with a Kodansha is completely idiotic. Or even trying to build your own marketplace outside of the mainstream marketplace is completely idiotic. Why? Why do I think that is? Because one, you're already at a disadvantage. High disadvantage, because your general readers, the general consumers, you cannot control what they see, and they're seeing the mainstream by default. They grow up in the mainstream. They grow up seeing mainstream. What's in bookstores, what's in the societal, cultural zeitgeist, what is out there, especially with controlled press. You cannot control that. So you're already at a disadvantage of household names and being in household, trying to build up a household name, because you're competing with intellectual properties by large corporations that have been built upon for generations. So it's very hard to compete with that, especially as a startup publisher. And then, not to mention, publishing game is already a very razor thin profit margin, especially with the archaic business model of you doing everything in house. So how do you then actually build up a publishing company? Where am I leading with this? The most obvious approach is within the market, right? If you're outside of the marketplace, how in the hell will you build up your own league, essentially, which is what a publisher is essentially. They're their own league, depending on the level and magnitude they achieve, especially, depending on the type of work, right? They're in their own league. How do you do that? You have to build within the actual marketplace. That's a no-brainer. That's common sense. You build within the marketplace. You build within the machine. You infiltrate. You build. You learn what you can. You take the resources that you can gather, and then you build yourself up as you branch off. That's the plan with the Young Wavy Comics. We have no plans at all to stay independent, be independent. Right? The Young Wavy Comics Group, Young Wavy Comics, is an imprint, and it's an emphasis on imprint, and it's the reason why I don't call myself a publisher, or I may say it here and there, but I don't run. It's technically we're an imprint. We're not an actual publisher, right? So I may run it like a publisher and look at publishing models and such, but we're an imprint. We're a collective of creators under a single label, trying to attach ourselves to a larger company. That being, in this case, a Kodansha, right? To be a branch of Kodansha, to actually be able to build ourselves within their already established marketplace and reader base, to actually get eyes on our work, a chance to actually have a chance to reach, 10,000, hundreds of thousands of readers on an active month-to-month basis. You have to go to the top. You have to infiltrate that marketplace. It's very difficult, yes. Right? So that being said, Amazon is just a stepping stone to that. It's honestly just one half of the battle. It's already won, because Amazon is the online book market. That's one separate marketplace. Now, when I'm referencing Kodansha or any other major publisher, I'm referencing them for expanded distribution reasons into the actual bookstore market. That's an entirely different marketplace, right? That marketplace is what I mean by heavily monopolized and controlled, right? So those retailers, those big, large corporations, right, they have contracts in place with these larger household publishing companies in terms of shelf space, right? And shelf space is king, right? If you don't have shelf space, you don't have eyeballs within that. You have no chance of even gaining any momentum of a reader base within that marketplace if you don't have shelf space. And just having that Kodansha logo on our book automatically gives us shelf space. Just having that image eye on our book automatically gives us that stamp of approval. And I just threw that out there because, image, that's the American comic book market side. But they're two marketplaces, right? The Japanese being the most important, because we definitely have to separate ourselves from these just double-minded plagues within this industry, right? Plagues within this industry, creators that are just all over the place. They're crazy within this marketplace. So Young Wavy Comics is in terms of the American comic book market, our focus is not even here. Our focus is selling the American manga to Japanese readers, the Japanese reader base, the Japanese market, utilizing that American kind of American originality as a selling point. That's the plan, right? But if you don't have that stamp of approval, getting into the mainstream market is going to be damn near impossible, to get any distribution into that marketplace, to even reach the distribution chain, which is very much so monopolized and gate-kept, especially now. Diamond Distributor, just speaking about American comic book distribution, it's going. So, all we have now in terms of startup publishers and indie imprints and indie press publishers, they have to get into these larger distribution chains like Lunar, Penguin Random House, Simon & Schuster. And the list goes on, depending on, newsprint, or not newsprint, newsstands, and so on in terms of distributors. But they don't look at these smaller publishers as any sort of, worth in time and investment, to even put them within the distribution previews catalog, right? So that way a retailer can actually see your book and order it, right? That's your first consumer. That's your first buyer. That's your first reader. It's your retailer. They're the ones that sell it, your work, your books, however many copies they stack on the shelves, to the actual readers that walk into the store, right? So you don't get to that point. You don't get to that point without a name, brand attached to yourself, right? And I'm going to dive deeper into that idea and that kind of our strategy within future videos. But I did want to just, these, again, when it comes to these immature and very unprofessional creators in this marketplace, we're detaching from them. We're cutting them off. We're detaching. We're moving forward. But I will be addressing them. And on the go, Seiji Bot, their arcade business model. It's why they failed. It's why they're failing. It's why they will continue to fail if they don't adapt and get with the times. Print on demand is the future. It's Young Wavy Comics, Young Wavy the artist, Young Wavy cast. I'll see you in the next episode.